What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 82 of the Average AF podcast.
Every time.
I'm your host, Adam McElroy, with my co-host, as always, Mr. Baby Red Bull, Mr. Ryan Baker.
What's up, everybody? Well done. You get me every time.
With what?
And you
What
do it so well on the intro.
What do you mean?
They
don't know what I'm. They don't know what
every
you're talking
time
about.
you do something or we do something, and I start laughing.
Yeah.
And you somehow just come to complete composure and just start every time.
Yep.
I'm gonna fight it.
I'm
gonna win the battle next time.
You won't. I wonder how many episodes start with your head like way down here,
Or like
because
this.
you're laughing. Yeah. And then you go,
oh my gosh, every time. It literally is.
Well, because that's the best way to start the episode is on that same
Keeping
energy.
it consistent. That's how we're doing it.
Yep.
People are probably like, what the hell are they doing back behind the scenes?
All right.
Nothing.
Join the Patreon. You'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, guys, welcome to episode 82.
Hello.
This week, we actually do not have the voice of God with us. Scheduling issues and things like that. I think he said he's getting sick, too.
It better not be the Rona.
I don't know. As guys, we don't elaborate.
No.
It's like, hey, I'm not feeling good.
Sorry, man. Hope you feel better.
Yep, cool. Deuces.
Did Jessica ever do that to you?
What?
Well, what'd they say?
Yeah.
What's wrong with them?
Yep.
Are they okay?
Don't know.
I
So
don't know.
Actually, what I was gonna suggest on the Patreon, we have a bonus series where we're doing like challenges, like little competitions, and what I wanted to do was like almost like a newlywed game. Have you ever seen that where they're like, okay, what's Ryan's favorite color?
Yeah.
And I'm like, blue, and then you show and you're like green or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know how well that would work because
I don't know. You just got my favorite color, so
okay, there we
it
go.
was blue.
But no, like on a for real note, like we're very good friends.
Yeah.
We've been good friends for multiple years, and I don't know that much about you.
No, I know you're a cool ass dude.
Right.
You're dope as hell, man. But I don't know what the hell your favorite food is.
Right. But that's why I was like, I don't know his favorite color. I don't know his favorite food. I don't know.
I do know you like to take long walks on the beach. You like cats?
No.
And hamsters.
Incorrect. All of that.
I tried.
But yeah, I was like,
who doesn't love hamsters?
I was thinking about still doing it, like, you know, on the Patreon, but I'm like, we would get so many answers wrong.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
And
that would be funny.
And it'd be like 10 questions each, and I would end with 2, and you would end with like 1.
We'd somehow go into the negatives.
Right.
Like, oh, that's hella wrong.
But like to your point, like we just don't. I mean, as guys, and this is most guys.
I'm sure a lot of guys can agree.
Yeah, like I mean, we don't ask those kind of questions. Like sometimes we'll vent about work and like things like that, but like I'm not like, hey man, how was your childhood?
Yeah.
You know, like,
or tell me more.
Right.
What happened?
Right.
Can you elaborate a little bit better?
How did that make you feel?
Oh my goodness.
We just don't.
What was your state of mind during that?
Cloudy.
Very wavy.
Yes. But yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's very different without Justin here because we usually have a third ball of ginger energy, and
you were on one today.
I don't know. I guess I mean, yeah, you're right.
You tried,
but yeah, usually we got a third person to also laugh at us when we're collectively.
Now
being
it feels
dumb.
weird because I got a computer looking at me and a camera screen looking at me.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about this camera is you can just flip the screen around, and I'm like, okay, we're good.
We should have taped Justin's like picture.
Oh, we should have, dude. So, man, I was so bummed this didn't work out, but I wanted it to work out so bad. You know, it was a couple weeks ago now with the Bernie memes where he's sitting down and like the viral thing. Well, somebody on Facebook was selling cardboard cutouts. Like, I don't think they were life size, but they were pretty close. It was like 3 or 4 foot tall.
Yeah.
And I was gonna buy one and just set it up right here for that episode. Because this was on
forever.
He would have been a permanent addition to the studio. But they sold out right before I got to them. And I was like, damn. And they were like, we could make you one on Monday or whatever. And I'm like, it wouldn't be the same for, the next week because then we record and it's a couple days till we put it out. And I'm like, it's going to be like
they would have they're late to the party. That's all we would have gotten.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as funny. But if a couple days after that you saw fucking Bernie sitting here, oh man, it would have been so great.
Or we throwing a special episode on like the Patreon or something the day of.
Right. But yeah, that didn't end up working. But yeah. Well, I guess let's get into the episode.
Let's hop into it.
It's not even like we've been recording, but I will say, hopefully, I mean, I want to say this with confidence, but I don't want to say it with 100% confidence. Hopefully before, well, see, I don't want to say that because then it's giving it away to you. I got a surprise, guys. I got a surprise.
Just keep it simple.
I got a surprise. And by now, you might already know the surprise. But I don't know if you're going to yet, but I think you will.
I hope that I'm not the only one that hates you right now.
Now, okay. So, but see, and I can't really give hints because it might give it away, and you don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking
which
about.
Which is why I don't want to give away too many hints because, yeah. So, there's a surprise. I mean, I don't know when you'll see it or, or whatever, but it's coming. And
I can't with you.
Yeah.
Nope, we're done.
Okay. Thanks for checking out episode 82. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yep. See you next week.
But no, this week we're gonna talk about kind of some, I guess, kind of personal stuff. I mean, it might get deep, it might get emotional at some points, but probably
got the tissues back there. We're good.
Do we?
Yeah, actually, we do. Yeah. We really do.
Yeah. Sorry, what? If you caught that, you're a champion.
Yes.
But I wanted to bring this up in the episode this week because I heard a quote that kind of like it just resonated with me. It's a simple quote. It's like nothing crazy, but and it just got me thinking like what other stuff like potentially could have like shaped who I am more or less.
Yeah.
Not saying that this quote did, but it, kind of started the thought process. But it was just something I heard on a podcast and they were like, somebody told me this. I don't even remember who it was. That's not really important. But the quote was, like basically to like evaluate yourself and things like that.
Yeah.
But they're like, don't forget, you might be full of shit.
Okay.
I'm like, I like that because it's a self-reflective kind of quote.
Yeah.
Like, try to not, kind of be cemented to your opinion and your view on things. And, just because you heard it a certain way or presented a certain way, don't necessarily go off of facts or go off of that as fact. Do your research and, let other information come to you and adjust accordingly. So
be receptive.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't.
Right.
And then it sucks.
Well, right. And I think the way this came up was somebody was like talking to him about something and they're like, "Oh, he's full of shit," but he believes it. Like he believes what he's talking about. But he just doesn't know how full of shit he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they were like, it reminds me, somebody told me, don't forget, you might be full of shit, but you don't know it. You know what I mean? So it just kind of got me thinking like, okay, like I said, I'm not, this is a Joe Rogan term, but like married to my ideas, which I don't think anybody should be. I feel like we've talked about that part before. How like part of being an adult is taking in new information and adjusting your opinions and views. That's like what you're supposed to do.
You got to. I mean, that's how you learn. That's how you become a better person, I think. Right. I mean, that's the biggest thing in life that I've learned is it's okay to fail.
Right.
Learn from that shit.
Right, for sure.
Learn from others around you too. I don't know, man. Life's crazy to begin with.
Right.
I mean, when I was younger though, I got a different perspective on life, I think.
Okay.
I got it at a young age.
Okay. How so?
Multiple ways. I'll name them real quick, and then I'll kind of go in depth if needed. But all by the age of 16. So this all happened by the age of 16.
Okay.
So I forget how old I was, but I witnessed my mom. I don't know if I was there or not, but she had a brain tumor. It was scary as shit. Damn. I do remember that. And she's good. Everything's good with that. And then when I had my Gilliam Beret in Miller-Fisher disease, I was like 12, 13.
You're going to have to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. But. And then when Sean, one of my good friends, shot himself when I was 16. So, like, I think I got to completely change a perspective with life and how precious it is.
There's a lot going on there. And I think I got the same, well, I don't want to say the same, but a similar perspective, but for very different reasons. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily, unless you want to, obviously, I don't want to necessarily go into like the brain tumor thing, because that's probably kind of a touchy subject a little bit. But tell people about what is it? The
Gilliam Beret and Miller-Fisher?
Yeah.
So with that, I was 12 years old, and
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. By the way, I hate when people say I don't mean to interrupt
when they're interrupting.
When they definitely intentionally interrupted.
Yeah.
But this is a conversation that we had. I think it was on episode like 10 or 11 or 12.
It was back.
15 maybe, way back there when we were audio only. And we went into huge detail about me, you, and Steve, like just all of the...
Because I remember blowing Steve's mind. He's like, holy shit.
Steve didn't talk that much on that one. He was just blown away. Yeah. And I will say, same thing when Justin came on and was talking about his seizures and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, if what he's about to say, if you want more detail, go check that out. I think it's episode it's within the first 10 to 15 in that range. I don't know. Sorry, but go ahead.
But yeah, so Miller-Fisher disease and Guillain-Barré, they're both the same thing, essentially. But they're both nervous disorders. That's what they are. But one starts from your feet and goes up. One starts from your head and goes down. But they essentially paralyze you.
Right.
And it just slowly starts going. So mine started with my eyes, and my eyes went crossed.
Now, with these are like not always together, right?
No,
they're usually separate.
Yeah, they're usually separate.
Usually you only get one of them.
Yeah, and usually it like happened, God, what was it? I don't remember the statistics off the top of my head, so don't fucking quote me on this, please.
Right.
But I think it was like mid-aged males that were more likely to get it, but it was rare as shit for anybody to get both of them.
Right.
And I was 12.
Right.
So 12 with both of them.
Oh, damn.
Oh, come on. Don't take the mic now. Right. But yeah, so was at school, and my eyes went crossed. So all I was seeing was like double vision. Started getting a hella big headache and went home. My parents thought I was faking.
Right. I mean, you're a goofy 12-year-old, I'm sure.
Right. Went to bed, woke up, and by that time, I was paralyzed from like my shins down, maybe a little bit higher, and freaked the hell out. Like, couldn't move. The shit just progressed from there. Mansfield had no idea what was going on, so we went to Cleveland Clinic. They figured out what was going on. Almost died like multiple times. Thought I saw the light because of that doctor's light and everything. But they said if I didn't make it there when I did, because I started choking on my own spit. So when I got there, they were wheeling me in. I started choking on my own spit. Could not breathe. Started freaking out. And you kind of tell people now, like, if something like that's happening, you just stay calm. There's no way to stay calm when you cannot swallow.
Right.
It is the weirdest feeling ever. And like, I've tried, like, even after I've told the story and shit to people, like, to not swallow, and you can't. Like, you can't
Right.
make yourself not swallow. And I don't know. It just, bad memories. But got to the doctor's office. I was on a ventilator for 18 days and ICU for 3 days, and then rehab for the rest. Rehab, I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to, like, get all my dexterity up with my hands. All of that shit, dude. Like, it sucked.
Right.
Spent my 13th birthday at Cleveland Clinic Rehab Center. So that one made me realize that, like, it doesn't matter what you do, anything can happen.
Right.
And I think that's helped me kind of live my life.
Right. That can be
as people can say.
That can be a very depressing moment or a very kind of uplifting moment almost.
Right.
So it's kind of up to you to figure out how you want to take it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's both for quite a while.
It definitely was. At first, it was definitely depressing.
Right.
I went through some shit, like, in the first, like, 16 years of my life, like, and
Right.
like, at times where, like, I was down.
Right.
But without all of that shit, it definitely wouldn't have molded me to who I am.
Right.
I think any of it, because like, for real, like, when people say, what are they, like, when they say, like, live your life, or, you know what I mean, do shit like that, like, I see it different in a true hard meaning to that.
Right.
More than just, oh yeah, live your life. Everybody lives their life. Like, no,
Right.
like, go out and fulfill your shit, man. Like, don't
Right.
be scared. Do what you want to do.
Right. Yeah, especially with something like that because I mean, I don't know if you said it here or if it was from the last time, but didn't all this, like, start and you were in the hospital within, like, a 48-hour period or something like that?
Like, it was quick.
Yeah. And, like, there's nothing that started that, you know?
And the doctors didn't even know what happened, how it happened, or
Right.
anything like that. Like, nothing.
Right. Right.
And that was the scariest part, was, like, anything can happen.
Right.
And I think, dude, like, it sounds crazy, but, like, the shit like that helped me through, like, the corona.
Right.
Like, it's hurting people and everything, but, like, I'm not, like, it's not going to stop me from being who I am.
Right.
Yeah, you may close some fucking places and stuff, but I'm not going to stop being me. You're not going to close me.
Right.
But I think that's helped me not have that fear. Like, I still play it safe and everything like that. I'll still follow the procedures and the protocols and shit, but I'm still going to go out and do me.
Right. You're not being dumb about it, but at the same time, like, you know, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'm not an anti-masker by any means. You know, I wear my mask and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, like, I'm a pro-freedom type person. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's up to people to make their own decisions. And I think I came to that conclusion, like I said, in a very different way. All of my stuff, I mean, you know, as far as, like, an early age, was probably before I was about 12 or 13. Basically, like, 13 through 18, like, I had a great life. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't, and I didn't have a bad life prior to that either. But
Right.
13 to 18, man, was, like, prime. You know, like, everybody hated high school. I fucking loved high school.
Oh, yeah.
But prior to that, man, like, I mean, the first thing, well, there's two big things that, like, shaped me from, you know, when I was a kid. And the first one, I'm sure if you guys have listened for a while or know me, this quote's kind of all over everything I do. You know, like, at work, like, you know, we had Skype or whatever, and you can put a little message in your Skype, and just, you know, same thing with, like, Facebook. You can have a little, like, bio type thing.
Yep.
And I had this quote, but it was something my dad always said. And I've said this, like, again, kind of ad nauseum, so I apologize if you've heard it already, but I still think it stands. My dad always told me when I was a kid, great minds don't think alike. Great minds think for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
Yeah, it really is. And like, he said like he never came up with it. He doesn't know where he heard it. I've Googled it a million times, can't find it. I don't know. So I attribute it to him. But
that's fair.
But yeah, I mean, he told me that ever since I was like 4 or 5, like legitimately. He said, think for yourself. Like no matter what you do, think for yourself. And I think that really shaped me because, I mean, at an early age, like, I kind of had a little bit of depression and things like that, but I don't even think it was necessarily that. I think it was more of just growing up and like natural hormones and things like that. I don't think it was anything crazy, or anything
like
more
life altering.
Yeah, nothing more than like what every 10-year-old goes through or whatever. But at the same time, like that in and of itself let me. I have this tattooed on me, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But it let me be confident in myself from a young age. And it's not, well, it wasn't necessarily confident either. It's just like, I don't care in a good way. In a good way. Like, I'm thinking for myself. I'm doing what I want to do. And even as a kid, like, I just kind of embodied that and, did what I did. I've never, conformed to whatever's going on. If it made sense and things like that, like, obviously I played sports, so you got to do, there's obligations, but just in a general sense, I did what I wanted, said what I wanted, and, didn't really care. But the other reason for that was at a very early age, probably about the same range, 5, 6 years old, when I could kind of start to think for myself a little bit at least. My mom has a Christian background, and my dad has my dad's an atheist, right? My mom doesn't really go to church, or she's never gone to church that I know of, but she has a Christian background, and like her whole side of the family, our whole family is basically Christian, which is fine. But my growing up in a household like that, my dad would make like certain remarks about stuff, and my mom would just kind of laugh it off and like whatever, because it wasn't like super important to them, because they loved each other and like whatever. But my dad even told me as a kid, and my grandparents took me to church and things like that, and I was just never into it. But my dad told me as a kid, he's like, this is what I believe. And again, make your own decisions. Think for yourself. Your mom's kind of on this side. And, I talked to her about it and went to church a couple times. And my dad even said, like, listen, and people laugh at this, but I think this is dope. He's like, I'll take you to church. He said, I'm not going in, but I'll take you, like if you want to go, you can go. Like it's, and he supported it and stuff like that. And I tried here and there, and it wasn't
your thing.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. But my dad's very, I guess I want to say like scientific, more or less. And just the way he described things just sat with me, in a certain way to where I understood it really well. And at a young age, I was like, okay, this is kind of like what caused the depression, more or less. Like a little bit was like, okay, well then what's the point?
Yeah.
And I think we've had the conversations of, like, well, what's the point of life without maybe a heaven or a hell or quote unquote guidelines or whatever it might be, however you want to word it. What's the point? And that could be a very depressing thought, right? But now imagine that for a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it'll fuck with your head.
I literally had existential crises as like a 7 or 8-year-old.
Yeah, I bet you weren't saying that word, though, when you were 7 or 8.
No. I barely said it when I'm 29. So.
But that shit is crazy, man. Like, shit like that. And it's things like that at a young age can definitely mold who you are. Right. And I've even tried to put this into Danielle, like, into her mindset.
Same thing on my end, man.
It's like, because when we'll watch shit like on criminals, I watch it. Like a lot of like the documentaries and like shit like with serial killers and shit like that. I watch it more of what happened to them to make them who they were.
Right.
Because to me, that's the important shit.
Right.
And it makes me understand it. Do I feel like what they did was right? Hell no. I don't. Do I agree with it? Hell no.
Right.
But do I kind of understand if I get a background on them? Yeah, like they kind of didn't really have a chance.
Right.
And it's, you know, it could be genetics, it could be other shit, but it's a lot on how you were raised and what you see and things like that. And if you especially see it on a constant basis, like, yeah, that's bad.
That's one thing.
Not always bad. It can be good, it can be bad, but it can also, you know.
Right. There's a line, you know,
Yeah.
and that's something that I'm very conscious of as being a parent, and I'm sure you are too. Like, I tell Harper's mom all the time, like, and you know, obviously she's not doing anything like crazy. Like, don't think of anything like that. But like all the time, I'm like, you got to kind of watch like maybe the way you say something or how you react, or you know, and again, she's a great mom, you know, and it's nothing like that. But I'm like, because me and her are both kind of we got our stuff going on, you know, mentally up in here. And it's a joke what we say, but I'm like, I'm trying to raise like a not traumatized child. Yeah. Like we were. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to raise somebody who's like a full, real good person. You know what I mean?
100% there.
Right. So you know, no little like weird quirks. But yeah, I mean it's very easy to do that. And like, I mean, you hear stories, man, like, you know, especially, you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, so a lot of people will talk about traumatizing stuff, and they always say, like, you know, yeah, this one time, you know, my dad was having a bad day, and, you know, he came in, and, you know, I ate all the cereal or whatever, and he called me a fat ass, and I've had...
Went off on me.
Yeah, and I've had body issues ever since. And I'm like, that's so crazy. Like, it's...
The little things.
Yeah, it's absolutely understandable. But yeah, like, you don't know, like, literally that's one sentence or one series of events that was probably a minute long that scarred this man for 30 years plus. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you got to be kind of hyper aware of that kind of stuff. So, you know, but at the same time, like, obviously we want to be protective of our kids, but you got to let them go a little bit too. And it's like, where's the line of like, you know, I don't want her to be traumatized, but you got to kind of go through a little bit of shit.
I mean, my thing is they got to go through shit.
Right. All right, guys, a little break in the action here to talk about our Patreon producers and our small business sponsors.
Absolutely.
We got the producers here. I got to read off a list because there's too many of you.
Get your glasses on.
I definitely shouldn't say too many because we want more.
Absolutely.
But,
keep coming.
Producers, we got Taylor, Tom, Patty Lite, Barili, Steve Hardy, Steve Bollinger, Joel, Sarah, Anthony, Jeremiah, Nate, Tony, and the Teacher Dummy podcast. Sorry, I got lightheaded because there's so many of you guys.
Thank you all for your support, though. We appreciate all 13 of them.
Thank you to all of our Patreon producers. I think we're up to 30 patrons now in general. And just thank you guys for listening and checking it out. If you want to support the show, please go to patreon.com/averageafpodcast. Links in the description. For as little as $2 a month, you get weekly bonus content. The $5 tier will get you a weekly bonus episode, early releases, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we appreciate you guys checking us out in general.
Continue to keep up the support for us. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend.
All that stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. Check us out on Facebook. Make sure you like and subscribe. Also on YouTube as well. Like and subscribe.
Yep. But yeah, thank you guys. And let's talk about some sponsors.
All right, so shout out to our first small business producer, which is Brubaker Photography. That is BRUBAKER Photography. You can go ahead and find them on Facebook at facebook.com/BrubakerPhotography1. Make sure you go ahead and check out their page. Go ahead and like their page. Go ahead and hit that community tab. Invite some people to also check that page out as well. And, check out their pictures. Go ahead and download some of them. You can get some wallpapers for your phone as well. Maybe call them to set up a schedule for you and your loved one to get some, post-Valentine Day pictures because you're going to be watching this after Valentine's Day. But, hey, get a picture for any occasion because what's better social distancing than a picture?
All right, guys, and we wanted to shout out our second small business sponsor, Perry's Powerhouse. This is Kyle Perry. He's a veteran of the Marines, and he does online fitness and motivational coaching for $35 a month. You get 24/7 access to him as a coach, weekly check-ins, YouTube tutorials, food macros, 3 full pages of meal ideas, monthly giveaways. I mean, there's plenty more. He has a ton of qualifications. He's an ISSA master trainer, which is a personal trainer, bodybuilding specialist, nutritionist, a glute specialist, weight management, transformation specialist. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on. He has over 200 clients currently, so it's the real deal. I've personally seen transformations, and they're insane. I think, honestly, in the next, probably in the next about month, we're going to have somebody on to talk about their journey as well through Perry's Powerhouse. But definitely check him out, perryspowerhouse.com or perrys.powerhouse on Instagram. Let him know we sent you, and, get right for 2021.
Shout out to my parents.
Okay, right on.
Shout out to my family, dude, because I think if it wasn't for them, I would have gone a lot further than I did down my bad kid road.
Right.
Because I did some shit.
We both did.
So, and it was bad, though, dude. And it's still crazy. I'm almost like the black sheep of the family.
I'm definitely the black sheep of the family.
But at the same time, it sucks to kind of look at it that way, but I've learned a shit ton, and I don't need college for it.
Right.
I've got a good-ass job. I'm in a good-ass position. I've been in management for a while. So, I mean, again, I wouldn't be who I am without the shit I went through.
Right, exactly.
But I wouldn't have made it through the shit I went through without, my family and support. They kind of had to let me fail. And if it wasn't for them, yeah, they bailed me out, literally sometimes. But, once I kept doing that, to see them and their disappointment in me when it happened, it fucking hurt.
Right.
So bad. Or when I got in trouble for one of the times and they said, okay, well, now you got to go to explain it to your grandparents. Mm-hmm. Bro, that was smacking me with a Mike Tyson punch, dude.
Right.
I was like, what do you mean? They don't need to know about that. I didn't want to. I didn't want to embarrass my family and shit. So
for sure. But there's a difference. There's a difference between allowing your kid to fail, maybe sometimes even legally or whatever it might be.
Legally.
Well, in the legal sense is what I meant. And traumatizing them. Obviously, traumatizing is lifelong effects, most likely in a negative way. Failing, to your point, I think is good overall.
Yeah.
It'll teach you resilience and kind of things like that.
Only if you are receptive to it, though.
Right.
That's the thing that people don't understand. They'd be like, oh, I went out and failed. Did you learn from it?
Well, that's why I say, and I've said this multiple times, so I apologize if you've heard it, but I always say there's no such thing as failure.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. You might have went backwards a little bit, but at the same time, you probably learned something.
Oh, yeah.
So look at it on the positive.
You've always got to.
You know, like
always.
Yeah, I don't.
Excuse me.
I don't think there's such thing as failure, but that's a whole other fucking topic. But as far as like traumatizing, man, like honestly, like, and I wouldn't say this was traumatizing for me either, but it definitely set everything in motion. Was when, you know, I had these thoughts of like, well, what's the purpose and like all this kind of stuff. And then at, you know, 11, 12, whatever it is, you start to hit puberty, you start to get hormones and just fucked up thoughts and like blah, blah, blah. And, you know, there were times where I don't even want to say I was actually suicidal. I don't think I was actually suicidal, but, you know, again, I'm 10, 11 years old. I was kind of saying stuff, you know, to maybe get attention, or I don't know.
It's almost like you were like borderline. You know what I'm saying? Or like showing signs.
Well, that was the thing. So like what ended up happening, this was on the bus, and I remember giving a girl a note, and I don't even know what the note said, but it somewhere in there said something like some type of like suicide type thing, or like and it wasn't like, if you don't date me, I'm gonna kill you. Know, it wasn't anything like that. I think it was like a friendly note, but like, hey, this is some stuff I've been going through, because this was a good friend, you know, and I think that was our original text message, like kind of things we can't say out loud, but we wanted to talk about with each other. And we can't really do that on the school bus or whatever.
Somebody always listening.
Yeah. But, I mean, you guys got to remember, this is, you know, 1999, 2000 maybe.
You're making yourself sound like you old.
I'm old as fuck. But, like, but yeah, I mean, this, you know, passing notes, nobody's passing notes anymore. It's wild.
No. They don't know what that is.
But essentially what happened was it, like, fell out of her pocket or something. So the bus driver found it, turned it in, right? So parents got called, all this kind of stuff. I had to go to see a counselor, blah, blah, blah. But the therapist said that he thinks I'm bipolar, which made sense at the time because I was going through these things, and I don't want to say I was violent as a kid, but I was aggressive.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily towards people, it was just aggressive. Like, so he said that, and that, honestly, what that did is, he said, you know, we want to put you on this medication and blah, blah, blah. And I specifically remember my dad saying, on the way home, he said, you're not fucking bipolar. This is bullshit. And he said, we'll get through this, but you don't need any of those dummy pills. And again, that's like I said, I don't think that was traumatizing, but like that's literally like word for word what he said, and it stuck with me. Mm-hmm. Not that was like super negative or anything, but from there on, I think he had more empathy at the time, because he didn't want to put me on medication. He called them dummy pills, which there's a time and a place for them, but
yeah,
what he was saying is it's not for you, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, we'll just work through this, and over the next, I mean, it took a while. It was probably 5 or 6 years. I finally figured out how to kind of control it and like talk through it. But after that happened, like, after I went to the therapist, I immediately, like, over the next couple of weeks, went home and was Googling bipolar and like trying to read up on it and figure it out and like what it was, because I'm I think 11 at the time, so I don't know what this is, you know what I mean? So I'm looking it up, and I'm just like fascinated by all this, and that's what got me into psychology. That's what got me through high school, into college, and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, mind over matter. We don't need those pills. We'll get through this. And there were some times where we did not get through it. But, like, there were multiple, you know, I mean, he's not going to like me saying this, but there were multiple like fist fights between me and my dad when I was a kid. And I'm a big guy. Now he's not throwing punches, obviously. He's just like kind of restraining me or whatever. But I mean, I'm swinging.
I'm trying to.
And
hit.
there was a time where I was on top. Somehow I got on top and I just went like this and was about to blast him right in the face, and I just couldn't. And I just, you know,
I mean, that's a good thing you didn't. Definitely.
Right. He actually still thanks me for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, hey, you remember that one time? Thank you for not doing that. But, I mean, it just, you know, it definitely shaped me. And, you know, that mind over matter mindset, it took a long time. But I firmly believe that's why I am like I am. Mm-hmm. Like, I do not ever show emotion anymore. I mean, I do, obviously. But, like, it takes a lot because I had to suppress it for so long.
Yeah.
Or like I went into either depression or like things got broken or people got punched or like whatever.
So it's like one extreme to the other.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's technically bipolar or not. Like those are kind of what happens. But I just think, you know, between the more or less existential crises.
Well, I think it's hard telling at that age too, though.
Right.
I mean, it's like you said, you're 12, you're going through puberty, you're going through hormones, you know, shit's going on, you know, things are different.
Right.
You're probably switching from, you know, middle school to junior high or, you know what I'm saying? Like you're switching different shit. It's a lot going on, which I don't think that a lot of people understand. And I think to your point, there's a time and a place for medication. Me personally, I'm not for it. You know, I've got my own beliefs and stuff for it, but I don't down anybody that's on it.
Right,
like, to each his own.
For sure.
But at the same time, I think it's so hard to sit there and diagnose, especially children. Like, if somebody were to especially say, like, my son, like, I could easily say my son's got ADHD. He's hyper as shit.
Right.
24/7.
Yes.
But he's a kid. You know what I mean? And he's probably now more hyper than anything because of damn corona.
Right.
He's been cooped up.
Right.
Like, but there's a lot of things that, you know, you've got to look at, and I don't know. I don't think medication should definitely be the first thing to go to, like a lot of people.
Especially for children.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
They've got to live and learn.
Yeah. And, I mean, I definitely want to shout out Kara because that's what she does for a living. Yeah. She's not a therapist, but she's like, it was some type of counselor. I don't remember the actual title.
Yeah. But she helps them.
She helps kids.
And that's awesome.
You know, I mean, you know, what I went through and really what you went through, I mean, she has to deal with that for, I don't even know how many kids, but probably hundreds or whatever.
And that shit can get traumatizing on yourself.
Right.
Like having to hear like stories and shit like that.
Right.
Crazy. But yeah, man, like, a lot of things have just made me who I am. I think a lot, alcohol.
Well,
alcohol helped me a couple of the years. But after that, dude, I think after I stopped drinking, it gave me a completely different view of life.
Right. How so?
And it made me a very stronger person because I had to deal with everything at fucking once.
Yeah, everything you were avoiding.
Yeah. So I think by me being able to face that head on and be able to handle all that,
right,
I was like, okay, I can do anything. Like, straight the fuck up. Like, I had to deal with anger. I had to deal with happiness. I didn't even know how to do, like, how to be happy without drinking. Like, it was crazy. But a lot of that, like, it definitely shaped me to be who I am and made me start thinking differently, making better decisions, you know, wanting to not be that follower, start being more of a leader. Right. And that was even, like, outside of my life. Like, I didn't want to just be the breadwinner of the house and take care of a family and shit like that. Like, I wanted to move up. I didn't want to just be an associate. I didn't want to just be an employee. Like, I want to be a supervisor. I want to be a manager. Like,
see, and I went through waves of that. Like, really, this is another thing that a lot of people say this, but, like, my dad always said, be a leader, not a follower, right? Mm-hmm. That's what everybody says. But I guess as a kid, anytime my dad would say that, I would always stop and imagine like a 6-year-old me or whatever. I'd be like, Dad, I am a leader. I just don't have any followers yet. And he just thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I'm like, I'm a leader. I just got to find some people. Like,
right,
you know what I
right.
mean?
Like, come follow.
Right.
Come.
But
I mean, that's a good way to look at it.
I mean, but with that said, like once I got into the workforce, I was kind of the opposite. Like I was the guy that went to work to try to get through the shift and get my money and leave and like do no extra and things like that. And it took me a long time to actually get that work ethic. Because, and I still kind of believe this, but you know, before I was like, nobody should have to work 40 hours a week. Like that's too much time. Like, yeah. And I still believe that. But
and by the way, parents, you made it look easy. At least my parents made it look easy.
Right. I will say, and that's a whole separate conversation, but I think it was easier back then.
Yeah, and it traumatized me, I think.
Yeah.
Because they were working like these prime shifts. We had dinner every single night at the same time.
Right.
I said, not anymore.
And, you know, especially back in the 90s, if you had two full-time, you know, or two parents that worked full-time.
Yeah. Sad.
I mean, you guys are doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's sad.
You might not be doing great, but, you know.
You're good.
I mean, now it's, I mean, it's a struggle. And, you know, to your point, it's extremely rare for two people, you know, especially with a family, to work the same shift.
Yeah.
I know you were doing seconds for a while, and Danielle was on first, right?
Yeah, and it worked.
I mean, yeah, it worked because it had to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's definitely harder now.
Right.
Especially it's so much harder now.
Yeah.
And I that's what I tried to explain to her, too. Like, first shift would be awesome, and I don't mind it because I'm getting off at a decent time. Like, I go in kind of early, but at the same time, I was like, our schedules just collide.
Right.
Like, it doesn't work well now, parents having the same schedule.
Right.
But I think with second shift, it worked. It sucked not seeing each other, but we still had, like, the weekend and stuff. But it's so hard.
Dude,
there's no win-win, it seems like.
I, like, almost don't remember anybody in the 90s working second shift.
It doesn't seem like it.
Like, I don't, and obviously there were, but, like, aside from, like, waiters and waitresses, like...
It didn't seem like it was a thing.
Yeah, obviously there were, but yeah, it seemed like everybody worked 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And I feel like they did.
Yeah,
you know?
Dude, it was crazy. Because my dinner was like 6:30 every night. Because like I think my mom worked. I think they both worked till like 6. My mom worked 6, and my dad worked till 6:30.
So you know what kind of sucked? A lot of people, when you're in high school, you're like, hey, you know, come over after school. My parents don't get home till 6 or whatever, right? I didn't have that luxury.
No,
because my parents have their own business. So my mom. They have their own business, but my mom also worked for my grandpa. But my dad, like they do real estate, and my dad just goes around and fixes all of the houses and things like that and does whatever we need to do so we don't have to pay a maintenance man. He just does it all. Yeah. But the problem is he makes his own schedule.
So you have no idea.
Yeah, so there's days he's home at noon. There's days he's home at 5. There's days he's home at 2. There's days he's like,
I just don't want to go to work.
Yeah,
today.
I just sent, Bill to go do it. I didn't want to do it,
That's hilarious.
So, yeah, there was no, like, hey, come over. Because I'm like, I don't know when my dad's going to be home.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
crazy.
I didn't have that luxury. But, yeah, I mean, the work ethic thing, man, I think that started, when it, and I got to give credit to StarTech, man. StarTech is where I got my work ethic from.
Dude, on some real shit, me too. Like, I'm not even going to lie.
Yeah.
Me too. It was a stepping stone for sure.
Yeah.
And, I mean, everything I do, I didn't learn from there, but I learned a lot about leadership.
You learned a lot about getting screwed over. And, but, I mean, honestly, I tell people, like, StarTech treated me well, man. I can't complain about anything. To a
point.
Yeah, to a point, obviously. But anybody that's worked there knows that. Yeah. That
but
culture,
again,
I guess.
You gotta make it what you want.
Right.
Like you can't just sit there and be like, oh yeah, this sucks. Like you got to find something good and positive about it, or like if something sucks, then do some shit about it. Like,
well, that was the thing. Like at StarTech was the first time that I had a job that I actually felt valued at the time.
I didn't at first. But I was just the dumb stoner kid that
I did at first.
Just went to work to, I was like, oh, whatever. I just need some money.
Well, yeah, and that was my thing too. And then they were like, hey, do you want to be in leadership? And I'm like, why? Like me?
Yeah.
And they're like, because you're good at your job, you help people, and you show up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's my job. Like,
dude,
what do you mean?
I used to be so surprised when people would say that shit.
Right.
Like, you don't?
Right. Like, what are you talking about? Like, isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Yeah. Like, I know I don't like coming to work, but, dude, you guys scheduled me.
Well, right.
I'm here.
Right. I need money.
Isn't that how this works?
But the money, I mean, the thing that really started it was prior to that. I mean, I don't want to get into details too much, but for a couple years, I did some things that weren't on the government's books, as far as how to make money for a couple years. And dude, I was living like a king, it was great. And then after that, I had to get a real job, and I was like, this is bullshit,
sucks.
So I worked my 40 hours and and I called off and, gave up shifts and all that kind of stuff. But at a certain point, which, this part was actually before all that, but at a certain point, before I was living like a king, same mindset, like I don't want to work, and things like that. There was a certain point where I had to eat. I had a 5-pack of ramen that had to last me 7 days.
Really?
Yeah, and that sucked.
Yeah.
And I think today, like I'm obviously a big guy, but like I can't eat much at a time. Like I can't.
Because you were so used to
rationing
it.
Yeah, I think that's what did it, because I can eat, if I eat like a meal from McDonald's or something like that, like I'm good pretty much all day. Like my metabolism's just shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, after that, like, after all the feeling like a king and like, going back to work and still having that same mindset, at one point, the gas got shut off in my house, and it was February.
Oh, shit. At least it's not this February.
It was a similar February. So I didn't have any heat in my house in a winter in Ohio. No hot water or anything like that.
Sucked.
There were days where I had to take like ice cold showers. Eventually I ended up calling Jerry and was like, hey man, like, can I shower at your house for the next week or two?
Yeah,
till I can get this back on? Yeah. Dude, it was terrible. We, typical stories, we tried to heat the house with the oven, turn the electric oven on and keep that door open, and
that didn't work.
Put up as many blankets as you could to filter that shit into the living room.
Like make a little like tunnel.
Right. I mean, we did everything we could, man. And after that, I'm like, okay, well, you got to fucking work, because you got to eat, and you can't have no heat in fucking February in Ohio.
Yeah.
So after that, I got to StarTech, and they back then, I mean, this was 2013, maybe 2014, and we had some good leadership then.
Yeah.
They made me feel valued and like wanted me to help and things like that. And then, it just kind of kicked off like, okay, well, now I can kind of feel some self-worth. I'm getting paid well or whatever.
But they awarded you too, which was nice.
Right.
And that's when I learned like money's not everything.
Right.
Like money's good. And yes, I want a decent paying job. But at the same time, I want to go somewhere where I'm not treated as a number.
Well, to that point, I get paid very well right now, and that is not helping me clock in right now.
Yeah.
It is not helping me at all, because I'm like, this is bullshit, like all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff at work going on. But Yeah, but the thing that is keeping me clocked in and showing up for work every day is the culture, is the people I work with, is, the management making me feel like I'm on the right track to get into management myself and things like that. And that's why I keep showing up. I get, like I said, I mean, we both get paid very well. And I'm just speaking for me. The money's not what keeps me showing up,
No.
It's it's definitely the people and things like that. So, but that's where it started, and ever since, like, I don't know, ever since I felt accomplished, I guess. I never really felt accomplished as a kid.
I still don't feel accomplished.
Well, I mean, like, on an everyday basis, like, not overall. I think I definitely have a lot more work to do, and things like that. But like. And honestly, until this podcast, really, I'd never had a goal in my life. Like, I never had a goal. Like, I don't have a certain job that I wanted. I don't have a house that I wanted. Mm-hmm. I kind of wanted to move to Boston. Like, that was like a loose goal of mine. But I'm starting more and more to hate the winter. Yeah. So I think I would go west. But I've... growing up, everybody's like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a vet. I'm going to be in the Army. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I'm like, there's nothing that interests me, and I have no motivation for anything.
And I think that's why instead of me setting like a specific goal, I said I want to be successful and happy.
Right.
That's it. Like, how I get there is how I get there.
Right. Well, it took me a long time to get to that. And really, I mean, I kind of had that, but to me, my thinking was to be fully happy and to live my best life. I don't want to be at work right now.
Yeah.
And that's what caused all that kind of stuff. But when you can find value in your job or your work, or maybe it's not even in the job function itself, but the people around you, again, the culture, man. Like, I got to give it up to
plays a huge part.
I got to give it up to my job, man. Like, anybody, I know there's a couple people that listen from work. There's obviously a lot of shit going on at work right now, and it's just transitions and things like that. It's just struggles that we knew were going to happen, but they're fucking tough right now. But the reason I'm still there is because I love the people I work with. I think, I'm on the right track to be in management and move up and things like that. But, I mean, without that, I probably would have been gone a while ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing with me. Like, that's any job that I feel like I go into now, like, I've got to have that mindset of, okay, I'm here. Mm-hmm. What can I do to get here?
Right.
Okay, well, what can I do to get here? Now I'm here. What can I do to get there?
Right.
Like, I just want to keep going up until that ladder's no more.
Well, see, and yeah, now that I found a work ethic, I think, and not to like toot my own horn or anything, but like, I get a lot of shit done. Mm-hmm. Like, every week, I get a lot of stuff done, whether that's work or podcast or whatever it is. And I couldn't have done that without StarTech kicking that off.
Yeah. Kind of growing you up.
Yeah. And now I strive for the accomplishments, the meeting the goals, whether I know what they are or not. When something happens, I'm like, that feels fucking good,
Yeah, and especially like when you get shit and when you get to a good spot to where you at, you can reflect on shit. Like, if you're having a shitty day, or maybe you forgot to pay a bill this week and you fucked up and your whole check's gone.
Right.
Like, after you get it because you messed up your time frame on how you pay things, like, you can't let that shit get you down.
Right.
Like, I look at it like, okay, yeah, I've got $50 in my bank account, but my house is on time, like, my payment's on time. Mm-hmm. I got gas, I got electric. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, I always look at those things like, okay, I am going in the right track. I may not have what I want right now, but do I have what I need?
Right. Dude, and that's what I live on, man. Like, again, if you've known me for a while, I'm sure you've heard me say this, and I might have said this on the podcast, I don't know. But when people are like, how are you doing overall or whatever, like usually my response is I ate today. Because there were days where I didn't eat. And it was my own doing because I called off work too much or wanted to party too much or whatever it is.
Didn't prioritize.
Yeah, and at that point, all you can do is self-reflect and say you fucked up, and hopefully you learn from it, which I did, thankfully. But yeah, man, I ate today and I have a roof over my head. Like, there's very little that will actually get me down because I've been in a much worse spot before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the thing is crazy, like, it took me a while, but then I also realized that I thought I was happy, but I knew that there was ways that I could be more happy.
Right.
And that's with, like, StarTech and shit, dude. And, like, at the same time, like, when I ended it with them, like, I was just heated that I was working a full-time job. My fiance's working a full-time job. So we don't have time with each other. We don't have time with the family.
Right.
And we're fucking living check to check.
Right.
I said, fuck this.
Right.
Like, this isn't right. Like, I said, I'm not doing what I can. I need to do better.
Yeah, and that actually, I mean, kind of transitions into my next point is being a parent. Because for me, like, so at StarTech, I went from supervisor to ASCS and then to training and things like that. And towards the end, I was the continuous trainer, which I only got because I found out I was having a daughter. And I was like, all right, well, I need to be out of ASCS now and need to make more money, right? So I went to training. And a lot of people didn't really, I guess, respect the job of continuous trainer because it just, I don't have my own class sometimes and things like that. But what they don't realize is I had to take in all the new information and teach it to every agent and the other trainers. Like, I had to train the trainers so that they could train their classes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when it's 100 agents, 120 agents on the floor, and you have to get 90% completion in the next 2 months, while working around everybody's schedule, which it's a 24/7 place, there were nights where I came in at 2 a.m. because I was like, I got to get this person, this person, and this person trained, and like, schedule. Yeah, and it was fine and it was fun, and that was something I really liked to do. But the problem, and it's not necessarily StarTech's fault per se, but the most that they could offer me for that position was $28,000 a year, which comes out to like $13 and something cents. And I'm like, and I was salary, so I wasn't getting overtime. I was working 50 plus hours a week. And I'm like, this is BS. Like, I'm worth so much more than this and all this kind of stuff. And to your point about, like, about basically needing more money, like, this isn't right kind of thing.
Right.
At that point, I got another job with my experience from StarTech and made like $7 more per hour. Like, that's significant. When people get $1 raise, they're stoked. I got a $7 raise.
Yeah.
Plus a fuck ton of overtime.
I mean, that's how it was. Like, I got like almost, it was like $6 and some change, I think, from when I moved from StarTech to school specialty. Like, I got a significant increase. But I also feel now like, that company is, that I'm with now is a lot better than StarTech, and they can treat their agents and stuff like that.
Same. Well, this company, the one I work at now, like I said, I was working a ton of overtime. I was working 7 days a week, 12 to 14-hour days. And I think in like 3 or 4 months, I only got like 3 days off, I think. And this is in a factory where you make glass, and there's 1,500-degree furnaces, and you have to wear not just steel toe boots, but there's steel toe with an extra piece of steel in it, basically, in case something falls and all that kind of stuff. And, dude, like, I would walk. I averaged 11 miles a day walking around that whole fucking factory and things like that. But it sucked ass, don't get me wrong. But, you know, I was working 80 to 90-hour weeks.
Right.
Like, that's 1 week. But I was getting paid overtime. So I was getting, you know, 40 to 50 hours of overtime per week on top of what I'm, on top of the great pay I was already getting.
That shit's crazy. But you had no time to spend it.
Yeah, no time at all. But Harper's mom was able to quit her job, and I was able to pay for everything and all that kind of stuff, and it was great in that aspect. But yeah, I mean, you know, you just got to make sacrifices. You got to do what you got to do, man, sometimes. Yep. And my goal ever since I kind of got my work ethic back, because I never had a real goal, like I said, was 6 figures by 30. That's my only goal. And I'm 29.
Yeah.
So I got like 10 months left to up, you know, more than double my pay.
To get to them 6 digits.
Yeah, but hey, you know, Dogecoin's gonna get me there.
Yeah. Just add the .00 at the end. There you go.
Right. But yeah, man, it's been a wild ride so far. Between all that stuff, comedy, hip hop. I mean, you know, being a dad, all that kind of stuff. I know we're hitting about that hour mark, but I do want to talk about being a dad real quick.
Yeah, dude. No, it's definitely changed my life. I mean, it's crazy. I think I've seen it. It's crazy just because when I first became a father, it wasn't like my birth child.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I came into my daughter's life when she was a year old.
Right.
So when I did that, I had no idea what the fuck it was like to be a dad.
Right.
I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the 9 months of pregnancy to prepare for it, read up on it, any of that shit. Like, I was living with my buddy in a bachelor pad, like, just getting drunk all the time.
Right.
And liked the person, and she had a daughter. Like, okay, so started that.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I love it. I love being able to watch them grow. Mm-hmm. I love being able to watch their successes, and especially, like, watch them do things that you had an interest in as well. Mm-hmm. Like, both my children, like soccer.
Yep.
I love soccer.
Yep.
I can go watch them all day and play with them.
Harper loves soccer too, and her mom loves soccer. Mm-hmm. Too big to play soccer.
Yeah. But I also, with my children, try to teach them at their age how I've learned, and like things that I've learned, like about not being afraid of things, like not being able. I mean, I know you say there's no such thing as failure, but like I let them know, like, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Right. If you mess up, own it. Right. And, you know, if you mess up, just be receptive to it. Like, that's what I've taught my kids from day one on some real shit. And it gets to them. Like, do they understand at the beginning? Hell no. Right. But I told Danielle, like, when she was doing that, she's like, they don't understand what you're talking about. They will one day.
You got to, the trick that I've kind of learned over time is you have to talk to your children like they're an adult. Yeah. No matter whether they understand or not, you have to talk to them like an adult, and eventually they'll start to pick up what you're saying. They'll be able to have more, I guess, concise conversations and things like that as they grow. But yeah, I'm always curious because I met you as a dad. Mm-hmm. I think you met me before I was a dad. Yeah. And then I transitioned into being a dad.
Yeah, you did.
I'm kind of curious because, like, for me, I don't think I've changed at all. But at the same time, like, I think I've gotten a little more responsible. Yeah. But, like, everybody, like, you know, Harper's mom all the time is like, you know, the change that you made was insane. And I'm like, Not really. Like I don't think so. So just like from a outsider perspective, from when you met me to now, do you think I've like changed that much?
I think you become more adultish.
Well,
I mean,
probably.
I definitely do, but I mean, I think you've changed. It's hard for me to describe exactly how, but
that's kind of what I'm running into. Like there's a change, but like I might not be, but I feel like I'm the same person.
You're definitely the same person, but I see you putting forth your all to like your interests.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you used to kind of be the person to talk about things or like, yeah, that's kind of cool. But like now you're putting full force behind things.
Right.
Like and to me, that's kind of leading by example. Like you are doing things all the way through, no matter what it is, no matter if there's struggle, no matter, if you're not going to make shit in the beginning, like
right.
You're looking at the end game in the long run and things like that. But I think that's also you doing that because that's something that you're teaching your daughter.
Right.
Like you've got to continue to push. You got to continue to strive no matter what the situation is. Like just keep pushing forward. Right. And I think in order for you to teach her that, you've got to physically do it.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it.
And I mean, we don't kick it like every single day. Like we're not like the Mean Girls Club and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, like little things like that, I think I've seen definitely a change in. And to that point, like, adulting.
Right. See,
but you've been kicking it with me, and I'm an adult, so
maybe you were a good influence on me.
Hey, maybe I'll take it. I'll take it.
No, it's just something I'm just now thinking of it. I don't think any of my dad friends. That's a weird phrase. I don't know any of my friends that are dads that I knew before they were dads.
No shit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm pretty sure it's like you and Steve. And I have other I don't know. I mean, I have other close friends, but I think they were all dads before I met them, or before I got close to them anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thought right now. If I'm forgetting about somebody, I apologize. If there's somebody right now being like, "You motherfucker, we've been cool for 10 years,"
and you forgot about me.
Right? I don't know.
Sorry.
It's also 11 p.m., so don't judge me right now.
But no, I think being a parent is definitely the best thing in my life.
Right.
For real.
Same here. And
yeah.
I mean, they're last
exhausting.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is, I guess that's kind of the end goal of the podcast. Like if we just do this every week and it's just for fun, and like we obviously have like Patreon and merch and stuff, so we're bringing in a little bit of money, but if it's basically just for fun for the next however long, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But imagine if we could do this and make a living.
Yeah, it'd be nuts.
But and like it's not necessarily that, like, obviously that would be dope, and like that's what is, I don't want to say it's the end goal because that's not why we do this, but the reason I kind of want that is not because that would be quote unquote my job at that point. It's because it would give me a lot of free time to spend with my daughter.
Yeah. And
to help her with homework and help her, learn stuff and things like that. If we could do this for a living and cut out 40 hours of work,
it'd be nice.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of the end goal. If it takes 5 years, if it doesn't happen, that's fine. We're still going to do these. Don't worry.
Yeah, we got you.
But yeah, I wanted to kind of have a fun conversation, about what kind of we've been through and some things that have happened and made us us. Yep. Because I don't really think we've had too many serious episodes since you've joined, which is fine.
Thanks.
No, it's good. It's
you
good.
Just get alien conspiracies.
You're right. No, I like being. I mean, my favorite thing of all time is being goofy. So I love that. And I wouldn't say this was like a serious episode.
No, but it's definitely taken a turn from where we have been.
Yeah,
with our recent episodes, which is nice.
Yeah,
it's nice.
I think that's good. I think
people see a different side of us.
And and some of this we've talked about before, but could have been on audio only episodes.
We could have been on multiple different episodes.
Yeah, and we've gained a lot bigger of an audience since then. So, I just kind of wanted to go over that stuff to kind of give people an insight on us. So,
82 episodes deep.
Yep, 82. That's fucking wild.
Dope.
But yeah, guys, thank you for checking out episode 82. If you guys have something you want to send us to either just kind of, talk about with us, or we can even talk about it on the show, however you want to do it. If you want to be anonymous, obviously we could do that too.
Right.
And actually, speaking of, I think I mentioned it last week. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast or not, on the actual recording, but we haven't gotten a voice message in a long time.
We haven't.
So yeah, keep in mind, guys, we can play voice messages. We can play videos too if you want to send in a video.
Yep.
And again, these can be anonymous. Obviously not videos because it's got your face, but
all right.
But yeah, if you want to do a voice message, that link's in the description of all of our episodes, on the audio versions anyway. At the very bottom, it'll say basically click a link here to send the message. But yeah, send us an audio message. They can only be 60 seconds, so keep that in mind. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. Patreon.com/averageafpodcast.
Absolutely.
There's
support
50 to 60 bonus episodes on there now.
Getting up there.
And I think just this week we hit a year for being on Patreon.
Hell yeah.
So last I knew, I think we were over 200 posts on Patreon in a year.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a fuck ton. So definitely check that out. Check out the merch. Again, all that stuff's in the description. Anything else you want to add before we sign off here?
Keep it real.
Keep it real. Keep working. Keep working towards your goals.
Keep doing you.
Be great parents and don't traumatize your kids.
Stay in school.
If you feel like it. But tell your kids to stay in school.
Word.
But yeah, thank you guys for checking out episode 82. Have a good night.
Until next week. Peace.